Hello everybody, I am going to record another video here. This is a game between Pastel and TheScourge. Pastel is playing as Zerg on the left side of metalopolis, and TheScourge is playing as Protoss on the right side. And so you may notice that TheScourge was the one player who had sent me the previous video and had sent me this one, or replay, and had sent me this one as well. So he sent me both of these replays, as well as a couple others that I have that I will be putting up whenever I find the time, as long as I find them interesting enough. Now, as you can see, this game is it's a very long game, so I'm going to try and fast forward through the less interesting parts, so I can try and keep it short and keep the game interesting throughout the entire game to see who will win, and just so you can all learn a bit about StarCraft and be entertained while doing so. So already we have the Scourge building a forge and a gateway. This is a good way to block off your ramp against the Zerg player, because it makes it very difficult for the Zerg player to get up any Zerglings into your base, especially if you block off these entrances with Zealots using hold position. In the Zerg base, we already have a Roach Warren coming up, so nothing strange at all from the Zerg player. Going quick roaches, perhaps going to put down an expansion sometime soon, but we will see. And over here, we're just getting cannons, so the Scourge, the Protoss player, is trying to wall in his base, make sure there's no sort of aggressive timing push by the Zerg, and just try and mass up a big enough army, although he's only running off of a single gateway right now. So really, depending on these cannons to keep his buildings and his base defended. While the Zerg player, going off of 2 extractors, is massing up enough roaches to be a threatening force to the Protoss player. However, the Protoss player is doing something that you see a lot nowadays, which is getting dual Stargates and probably going to go for Void Rays, as they are very powerful against anything really, but more so against Zergs if they haven't not teched out to tier 2 and gotten Hydralisks. So the Zerg player running off of 2 bases, just trying to build up an army as he does have a Spire, so he may be able to fight back against these Void Rays, and I'm going to go into normal speed, at least for now, and slow things down a bit. So he has already gotten his tier 2, and is getting a Spire, so he will be able to produce something that can attack air, either Mutalisks or Corruptors, in order to try to fend off these Void Rays, which are still being produced from these Stargates. We are now getting a robotics facility down from the Scourge, but nothing yet being produced, perhaps just observers to be able to scout out what Red is doing. And he is finally getting his natural expansion. Although a little late, it is always good to have your expansion to be able to increase your income. So Pastel, the Zerg player, is still just massing up roaches, saving up his gas in order to produce, produce a lot of Mutalisks. As you can see, he's producing 3 Mutalisks and should have more as gas permits. Income-wise, they are running pretty similarly, especially since and it looks like the Scourge might get an advantage income-wise as soon as his Nexus goes down, as he does have a slightly higher income count, more harvesters. So yeah, I guess correctly, we will be seeing an Observer coming out, as well as more Void Rays just being pumped out, and now we have a good Void Ray force. And if you look at the army, while Red does have the advantage, most of his army is built off of roaches, and roaches, since they cannot attack air, are obviously a very, very poor counter to the Void Rays, which will just destroy them so quickly. So the Scourge should soon be filling up his expansion with probes, but we have to watch out for this attack from the Zerg player as he's moving forward with his ground forces. And then, where are his Mutalisks? Still sitting in his base, not moving out yet. Although we will see how they may be going back around and trying to hit the mineral line for harass as these ground forces attack the front base, but we will see what happens. So now we have units, you can see 5 Void Rays and 5 Zealots. So the Void Rays, they're really necessary, and as what the Zerg player is doing is splitting up his attacks. Here's the engagement. Roach is attacking, and Roach should be easily overrun the Zealots as long as these photon cannons don't get to deal enough damage. And just as these Void Rays are moving in to deal with the Roaches, the Mutalisks come back here, and they're trying to take down... Oh, no, they're not. Moving away from the Stargates, trying to hit the probes as best they can to deal damage to the protoss economy. Now running away from the Void Rays, but getting trapped between the just produced Void Rays and the old Void Rays, and they're taking a lot of needless damage. A lot of Mutalisks have been lost, and that was not a very good push on the Zerg part. As the Roaches did do some damage to these cannons and destroy the Zealots, the losses of all those Roaches and the couple Mutalisks really did not make it worth it on Pastel's part. But here we go. Pastel is making another expansion, which is always good, and I will fast forward a little bit now to see what is going to happen. Now getting a Hydralisk den, so we'll soon be seeing Hydras as more Mutalisks are being produced. This Nexus finally getting to be saturated. It probably would be a good choice to transfer some of these probes, although not necessary, as more Void Rays just being pushed out. And mass Void Rays are a very tough counter, although the Zerg player is doing the correct thing by getting Hydralisks, as well as trying to out-macro the Protoss player by just getting a lot of hatcheries and trying to get a huge income. So these two pylons were destroyed, so the Stargate, all the production of Void Rays has been halted, at least for now. But the Mutalisks are going to have to run away from these Void Rays. A little bit of conflict here. It looks like the Void Rays should be enough to push away those Mutalisks. And yeah, there they go. They're running away after being overrun by these Void Rays. I don't know if he has the speed upgrade, but I don't see anywhere. Yeah, so the Void Rays don't have the speed upgrade yet, taking damage from these Mutalisks needlessly, and they will... Ooh, it's pretty close. Mutalisks trying to run away now, as these four Void Rays pushing out against an Overlord, and Mutalisks are returning. So right now, it's sort of a stalemate between these two groups, and it looks as though the Zerg player will probably end up winning if the Scourge does not have any sort of aggressive push or begins to expand more, because looking at the income, you can see his income, Pastel's, is well, not exponentially, but so much higher than the Scourge's, as the Scourge's main has just been mined out. So the Scourge, he really needs to do something in order to get his economy up, because he's not even mining out of his expansion very well. With these probes being moved, he'll have a higher chance of fighting back, but all these Mutalisks cancelling all production from these Stargates before having to run away from the Void Rays already in the air. So this game has stayed mostly in the air. The Void Rays could try and do some harass and kill these Overlords, although Pastel is sitting with excess food count, so he should be okay either way. In the meanwhile, he has been just making more Mutalisks and a couple of Hydralisks in his base, and I will move forward once again until more conflict begins to occur. The Protoss player, food locked right now, is now getting Immortals, so now going back to a slightly more ground-oriented combat, although again these Mutalisks coming back to harass, not necessarily the best move, as these Void Rays are really devastating against Mutalisks since they have been changed a couple patches ago to be better against light, small units. He continues to chrono boost these two Stargates in the back, giving him enough production of Void Rays to push off any aggressive push that the Zerg might have. Yeah, and now getting the Fleet Beacon and getting... not yet, there we go. Getting the acceleration and movement speed upgrade for the Void Rays, which makes them much more deadly against the highly mobile Mutalisks. Not getting the second Vesping